I started studying for the LSAT over 2 years ago, and I remember I was actually too afraid to take a diagnostic test because I didn't want to really know where I was at. And so I started drilling using free Khan Academy resources, watching YouTube videos, and I wanted to give myself a little familiarity with the test before I ever even took a practice test. And I remember, after a month or so of studying, I ended up in the low 150s. I remember, I'd say maybe 151 or 152, which is certainly a fine diagnostic score, and one that can certainly have gotten me into law school if I chose to stop right there. But I really wanted to do better, and I wanted to achieve higher. And so I committed myself to studying using the free resources. And after a while, I would say about 3 months of studying using just free Khan Academy resources and YouTube videos and explanation threads online, I decided to take the official test. I believe it was January of the new year, hoping that maybe I'll get my score back into January and submit a late application that cycle, and then sort of just be on my law school journey and not have to think about it ever again. And I was super wrong. I mean, I got my test result back. I believe I scored a 159, and 159, again, fair score, certainly could have gotten me into some schools, but I just felt like I could do better. And so I took some time off. I didn't apply that cycle, which I think was the right move. Took that whole summer off and returned to studying, took that whole spring off, returned to studying in the summer. Spent another 3 or 4 months that time. And at that point, I decided to sign up for Seven Sage. I used a lot of Seven Sage core curriculum. I used a lot of JY's explanation videos. And I used Seven Sage primarily to do drilling. And drilling on Seven Sage was so powerful because I could select for question types, I could select for difficulty, and I could review my analytics, and I could see exactly what I was missing and what I was struggling with, and I could then tailor my studying to exactly what I was doing. So the Seven Sage provided all of this information and sort of data that allowed me to really see where I was at in multiple arenas, not just what I was scoring on each practice test, 155, 160, 165. I could actually see exactly what was going on. And so I started drilling with Seven Sage, using Seven Sage explanation videos, watching Seven Sage core curriculum to fine tune the skills that I thought I had, but I really didn't have in sort of logical reasoning and reading and understanding English and understanding the logic of the English language. And with that, I actually saw a huge bump up. So my next official test I took the November of that year. So that's a whole 10 months after I took the first one. And I jumped up 10 points. I got a 169, which was very encouraging, a great score. And it showed me that I could improve with the right test prep, with the right resources, with the right attention to detail, that I could raise my score. And at that point, 169, I was like, well, I think I could break 170. And it was funny because I think I had missed 170 by basically one question. So I thought, hey, if I got one more LR question right, I'd be in the 170s. So at that point, I was really motivated. So I actually did apply to law school that cycle, didn't get into the schools I wanted to. I was a little below their median. But then I took another few months off and returned to the test the following summer, and then studied another 3-4 months with Seven Sage. This time committed to drilling basically 4 and 5-star difficulty questions, sort of as my primary method of study, and watching JY's explanation videos, just creating drills for myself of the hardest question types and doing practice tests. And then after a few months of that, I took another test, my third official test, and scored a 177. And I was really happy with that result. I'm ecstatic to be applying to law school with a score that I feel like reflects my true potential. And I honestly wasn't surprised when I got my 177 because I felt like in those last few months of studying for the test and drilling those hard question types, I felt like I had developed a mastery of the test. I felt like I had learned to approach any question, that you could throw any question at me, no matter the difficulty, no matter what test it's from, what year it's from. It could be the hardest question, the easiest question, and maybe I wouldn't get it completely right, but I would have an approach. I would have a strategy. I would know how to read it. I would know how to dissect it. And I would have a robust approach for answering it. And for most of them, I think I would get them right. Maybe not every single one. I mean, on my official LSAT, there were still, 2 or 3 questions that I ultimately got wrong, hence the 177. But, you give me another crack at it, maybe I would have done a little better on those and maybe pulled a perfect score. Who knows, right? But I think that using the 7Sage platform, especially the drilling feature, especially the analytics, taking practice tests, seeing what my weaknesses were, and then drilling on my weaknesses really allowed me to dial in on those weaknesses and sort of iron out any problematic areas that I had, iron out all the wrinkles. So at a certain point, I had no weaknesses left. And so I was able to just approach the test, not trying to play any games with it, not trying to use any gimmicks or any sort of strategy to cut corners. But any question that was thrown at me, I had an approach, I had a system, and I could answer that question. And I did that for every single question throughout the entire test. And I'm happy to say I only got a couple wrong, which is great. And I'm really happy about that. I've really learned to love the test, and now I tutor it, which is great. So that's my whole LSAT journey. It took 2 years. I would not recommend that everybody take 2 years, but what I would recommend is that people sort of pause and take it a little slow. Think about, maybe you're not. I think the reason actually why mine took so long is that I initially tried to rush. And had I not initially tried to rush, then I could have sort of paused, thought about a longer timeline, and maybe studied a full 6 months and then taken the test one time and gotten the score I wanted. Maybe that would have been, and that's maybe the approach I would prescribe to other people. So anyway, yeah, I recommend, seeing where you're at, ironing out all that you want to iron out, and setting no limit on what you can achieve, because I think anyone can develop a mastery to the point where you can be scoring a near perfect score, because they're all the questions are learnable. And once you learn the approach, you can answer pretty much all of them. So anyway, that's my story. Thanks for listening.